that EGROW Foundation has been running since the last more than 3 years now. And in this EGROW webinar series, as you know, it's a research-based policy think tank. The focus obviously is on contemporary issues which has policy implications. When we started with a clear objective of having a blend of foreign and Indian speakers and those who have the best of best experience in these issues. We are very lucky that during this 190 odd seminars that we have been able to conduct, we have been able to maintain that blend. We have had two Nobel laureates come and speak to us. We were also privileged when G20 asked us to organize for the think tank 5, the T5 International Economic Order. We did that. Again, we had best of participation from within the country and outside. And that is the time when we thought that we would also like to do on a topic of women empowerment, which is part of G20. If you look at the G20 declaration, New Delhi communique, New Delhi declaration on women empowerment, number of paragraphs have been written, and we have been pursuing this topic now for more than 4 months. As we finished the T5, we started on women empowerment. Today's lecture is in continuation of that series on women empowerment. We are going to do 4 more on this. Though the presidency has moved to Brazil, the issue of women empowerment continues in the New Delhi Declaration as well as G20 agenda. The agenda will be taken up even in Brazil. To take this further and to talk on these issues, we have today very, very good specialists on the topic. Professor Kuldip Kaur is chairing the seminar series today, and Professor Catherine and Professor Ishita Bharadwaj are the panelists. I will introduce you to Professor Kuldip and hand over the session to her. She will conduct the proceedings further. Professor Kuldip is a dear friend of mine. We are classmates. We have known each other since 1980. Right now, she is a chair at B.R. Ambedkar, a chair, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar. She was previously head of School of Social Science and Economics at Guru Nanak Dev University. Not only that, there was a time she was heading 3 different departments, School of Social Sciences, Punjab School of Economics, and the Management School under Guru Nanak Dev University. She has worked extensively, as you can see, on these areas, but even on women and gender, she has lots of research and survey-based studies. She has also extensive teaching and research experience in industrial economics and Indian economic problems. She is a member of many national and international economic research bodies. With this short introduction, I hand over the session to Professor Kuldip.
Thank you, Professor Charan. In fact, it's my pleasure to be a part of this webinar series, which is a very crucial issue these days, that is gender mainstreaming. And I think it's, other than taking under G20 series, it's one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals for the, as far the women empowerment is concerned. So I take it as a privilege to be part of this seminar, and thereby I am particularly thankful to this EGROW Foundation and particularly Professor Charan Singh for giving this opportunity to be part of this. And if I say a little bit about the background of this gender mainstreaming, then we all know that gender equality and development move side by side. And also for inclusive growth, which we have been talking about in all throughout our planning era, particularly after the 8th 5-year plan, we have been talking about that. And this is a key for the inclusive growth. This gender mainstreaming is must. And in the traditional orthodox underdeveloped economies or say societies, there are social, cultural, economic, and educational inequalities. There are some reasons about this. That is, if I talk about particularly in Indian economy, to take for example, the patriarchal society, the dowry system, the gender-based violence, etc., are the reasons particularly which account for the social inequalities between the two genders. And the reasons for the cultural inequalities, to me, it seems so, is the preference of a son. That is in the traditional, particularly if we talk about the northern India, in Punjab and Haryana, the people have the preference for having a son. That is why the sex ratio is declining in those two states. The reason for this preference is that they consider that the role of a son in the rituals is very important as compared to the female girl child. And even these inequalities prevail in the economic aspect, and whereby we can clearly see from the figures where there are lower labor force participation rates as far as the females are concerned vis-a-vis males. And also, I myself has undertaken a research project, major research project, whereby I have tried to find out in the informal sector that are there really the differentials, wage differentials amongst the males and the females. And to my surprise, it came out like this, that there were see differences as far as the wages in agriculture sector or in other informal activities are concerned. Males were getting much higher wages as compared to the females. And in an other aspect, when I try to see that, since I consider that all these cultural factors are important one behind, or they play their role behind these types of disparities, when I try to find out the reasons for a declining sex ratio in Punjab on the basis of the secondary data, then I came to know that one of the important factor which turned out to be the significant, that was the households which were female headed households. In those cases, the discrimination was more, or the sex ratio was lesser, or female headed households were themselves responsible for causing this type of menace in the society. So coming back to the economic inequalities which arise from the lower labor force participation rates and lower wages, and furthermore from the poor access to the credit and even to the property rights. They are also not given in the rural areas. Particularly, the females have to sacrifice their property rights because they want that their siblings, otherwise they have to go to their parents house, parental house, and hence if they will be claiming their property right out of the ancestral property, then their sibling, particularly the male brother, or you can say, they might not get annoyed. So these are the other factors which cause basically the inequalities, or for which we need basically the you can say the gender streaming. And even we can find these inequalities in case of education sphere. Just try to read the societies, orthodox societies, whereby I notice from those from the lower strata particularly, I could notice that as far as the education facilities were concerned, or the privilege to give the phones to get the online education, there again the male children came first as compared to the females. And similarly, if the course choice is concerned, then males were given the priority to go away from their house, their residences, as compared to the females. Why? Because they think that females to spend more on the females education is no more viable, because after all we are to get them married. This basically is true in case of the orthodox societies. And for the males, basically they are ready to send them to the boarding, to the residential, to get the residential education, and even to the other countries to get the as per their choice of course is concerned. So these types of differences prevail. Even these can be the cultural differences, this can be due to the economic factors, these can be due to the social factors. And again, if I refer back to the literature, then I could find out the three different set of theories which justify this statement that these types of differences do exist. First, one argument is given by the set of theories which I categorize as the biological set of theories, whereby it was considered earlier that since women are biologically weak or physically weak as compared to the males, hence they cannot perform those duties which are harsh, which are means not easy to handle by the females. And the second set of theories is again related to the sociological aspect, that is to the societies, whereby it is considered that women should only work or only go there where they are safe and secure, maybe in the surroundings of their village or in the surrounding of their houses, thereby they should only work, whereas the male child or the male workers have the freedom to go anywhere where they like. Their mobility is much more as compared to the females. And on the basis of these two set of theories, what has happened in the economy, in Indian economy or in such other orthodox societies or the economies or the underdeveloped economies, that markets, labor markets are divided into two different clear-cut segments. That is, they are called as the labor segmentation theories, where some stereotypes jobs are meant for the females as compared to the males, particularly if I talk about the receptionist job, for example. The females are only considered to be the fit candidate for the receptionist jobs, whereby, and similarly, the teaching jobs, or means I mean to say the soft jobs, whereby we have to display just for the purpose of attracting the customers and like that, clientele, etc. In that case, the market have been divided into two different segments. And in this case, from all this whole of this background, if I consider that if 50% of the gender is being discriminated, then how can we say that the development process can move smoothly? Because development and gender equality move simultaneously. And from the experience, world experience of development of the developed countries, we can notice that as the gender equality increases, or with vice versa, if the development increases, the gender inequalities also disappear. And hence, in this background, today, I would say that I would like to congratulate Professor Charan Singh to choose this, the crucial issue, which has many more issues to be highlighted if we are to means really go in for the fulfillment of this development goals, or we are really to fulfill the G20 goals as well. So thereby, today I am having with me the two great speakers who will be highlighting the lot more issues. Without taking much more time, I will like to shift the mic to my first speaker, to Dr. Catherine. If I say little about Dr. Catherine, because there is a lot more to say about her. If I say a little bit about is, that is Dr. Catherine, who is my first speaker, is working as Associate Professor and Head, PG Department of Commerce, Women's Christian College, Chennai. Dr. Catherine had been on significant positions. If I name them, that is like Coordinator of Entrepreneurship Development Cell of the college, Member Academic Council, Member IQAC, Treasurer Alumni Association, and many more. She had worked extensively on SHGs and microfinance, which are, to me, the tools of empowering women. And with this brief introduction, though there is a lot to say about her, with this brief introduction, I should hand over the mic to Dr. Catherine to give or share her experienced ideas or views upon this crucial aspect of gender mainstreaming. Now, over to Dr. Catherine, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your generous introduction of myself. I'm not like a great person over here working in WCC. I'm one of the humblest person here, and who would always work for the upliftment or the development of underprivileged women, especially, and also would try to promote the sense of entrepreneurship or the spirit of entrepreneurship among my students, and also to my students to have a glance of or to have much more knowledge about like what is happening in the underprivileged society and like what is really happening in the rural areas, because most of our children in urban regions, they haven't seen villages at all. So this is my basic work I'm just doing, a small work which I'm doing. I'm really not a great person like the other speakers over here. And as ma'am had said, like my research experience is like I got through my microfinance research experience, and I worked with a lot of self-help groups. And with this little experience, like I would like to share like how gender mainstreaming like is being placed in India as a glance, and in Tamil Nadu how it is, and then what can be done for it. So though like I cannot give a proper or final conclusion towards it, but I can make certain suggestions. So with my experience, thank you for sharing the PPT, Charan sir. Okay. So see, before this introduction and before the conversation had actually started, we were talking about the Nataraj statue, right? The beautiful Nataraj statue that sir was mentioning about. See, actually, Nataraj statue, like as of I know, he is Ardhanarishwarar, right? He's half of women and a male and female posture, right? So the world, the entire world, the half of the population of the world uh, is with women. So if at all women is excluded, women is oversighted, women is rejected out of opportunity. So it means that we are excluding the half of the world's population outside the realm of opportunity. And then actually women are the partners in building the prosperous societies and economy as a whole. See, some glaring indicators we have that in any household, especially I've seen in a lot of households in our state, if any household, like if there is insufficient food, actually the women in the house will go go hungry first. Okay, she will not eat that food. Okay, so right from eating, right from spending the money even which she had earned very hardly, anything which she cannot have things for herself, right? So another scenario, or the other side of the scenario is there are girls increasingly doing in school, colleges, and universities than boys. So we always see if our TN plus two results, no. So it always insists or shows that the results are much better. Okay, the girls really top. The girls really get the top 5 position. So this is the reality actually. But this is not translating into gender equality, or otherwise it is translating or making girls a better labor force in the labor market. So this is not happening at all. So as ma'am was explaining or telling about sustainable development goal, where the 5th goal is gender equality. Actually, in this kind of a scenario, like there is only a very very rare ray of hope for gender equality, and this could happen even the next 2 decades. So what we have to do is we need to invest a lot in empowering women and bringing them to the mainstream, and it is now the duty of all the authorities to bring them into the possibility of promotion of sustainable social economic development. See, we do have certain general principles of gender mainstreaming, like having proper gender sensitive language, using a gender sensitive language, using gender specific data collection analysis, seeing that like equal utilization of services is available for females, and equal involvement in decision making, equal participation into any realm of affairs. And as I was talking about the equality, equality is just not should be in number, it should be in treatment of both gender also. I mean, the treatment between the men and women, male and female, should be really equal. So women had been the integral part of our culture and society, like since ancient times, right? So the status of women in India, like always been a topic for debate. So always, like even when I was in since childhood, I was debating about like pen urimai, penniyam, like that. Okay, so there is rights for women, like that. Right. So a lot of such topics talking about women, and a lot of poets here in Tamil Nadu. Bharadiyar, Bharatidasan, Kannadasan, and so many poets here also talk about a lot of freedom for womenhood, right? So it is not a very, new topic or something which is now it is to have a concern, but it is an ancient topic. But despite of the progress made in the recent years, there are a lot of challenges still women in India has to face. Okay, so like we do have positive developments in India to empower women. A lot of efforts have been taken, is being taken both by the government as well as non-government organizations, institutions. So several programs and policies had been laid, like right from improving women's education, health, and giving much more opportunities for women. And there is, of course, been a significant increase in number of women participating in labor force, workforce. Okay, they are achieving high position. They are, showing their talent or proving their talent in various fields, including politics, business, entertainment, or whatever you name, right? So we have women force, we have women workforce now. Uh, so, but still, like a lot of impact of gender mainstreaming is to be, the significance of gender mainstreaming is to be given much more impact to have that kind of socio-economic growth we expect. Okay, so only when we have or when we ensure gender mainstreaming, we could have a lot of, so first what we need to do is like policy changes happening in the policy, and having a higher quality legislative work, and like bringing such policy making which is greater relevance to the society, and like making gender mainstreaming aspects which will bring macroeconomic development and financial sustainability for women. And definitely gender mainstreaming is going to bring a lot of a boost in private and public sector performance, and it is going to reduce income inequality, and definitely it will increase a lot of productivity and innovation. So in the recent times, like we have seen a lot of women participating or women taking up entrepreneurship. So it is very much pathetic that hardly 10% of women population are women entrepreneurs in India. But now, like slowly, like a lot of with policy changes and involvement, and the innovative mind of, young innovative mind of female, like they are participating in entrepreneurship. They are taking this also as a career. And then we have seen like a lot of improvements or subsidies and a lot of help coming from the government side, especially for micro, small, medium enterprises. So, and in the rural areas, as I was telling you, my area of research was microfinance. So I could see a lot of innovation and at least a bit of contribution towards entrepreneurship by women through the help of microfinance, like either from a microfinance institution or from a self-help group, the movement, or from the bank side. Like they get small finance and involve themselves into entrepreneurship, and they actually contribute their part for development. So, but still, the prevailing status of gender mainstreaming is India ranks 131. We get 131st rank out of 189 countries in gender inequality. So this is as per the UNDP's status. And UNDP explains three aspects of inequality. It is reproductive health, empowerment, and economic status. So actually, these three are considered very important in gender mainstreaming. But pathetically, like we are not in a very great position as of now, right? So women in India have been granted various legal rights, okay, over the past years. Like lot of promotion has been happening towards gender equality, and to protect women for their interest. See, actually, I can share certain rules or regulations which is already there in India. Say, for example, right to equality. So we have Article 14 of Indian Constitution guarantees the right to equality to all citizens regardless of their gender. And then Right to Education Act. So that is Mandatory Education Act. So therefore, children till the age of 15, it is mandatory for them to get education. So including boys or girls. Again, there is no gender discrimination should be coming up here. So children, I mean, both girls and boys have the right to get educated. Okay, it is free and compulsory education. So even in our state, like we do, the government gives a lot of, freebies, like everything free, 100% free education for government schools until 12th standard. Everything is being given free, so that the child will continue her studies till the 12th standard, and maybe with good marks or score, she can move on to the higher studies also. So therefore, Tamil Nadu government has given lot of such kind of women welfare benefits actually. So right to work again is another important, right which has been there in India. So right to get equal remuneration, right against sexual harassment. So actually we do have an act which is the sexual harassment of women at workplace. So Prevention and Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Actually, this act addresses the complaints of sexual harassment at workplace, right to property. So as ma'am was very beautifully explaining that in rural areas, women don't have that right to share, right of sharing their own, getting the share of the property, because the ill treatment of the male siblings after the property has been shared. And they, each and every women want to get back to their mother's house at whatever is the age. So even at the age of 50 or 60, it is always good for a woman. It actually like feels good for a woman to get back to her, parents' house, even though the parents are not there. There should be someone to receive them, right? Her, elder brother or younger brother or whoever. So maybe because of this one important reason, women are giving up their right for share of property. So this could be one reason. So this type of mentality prevails in entire nation. Okay, I should say. And then Right to Marriage and Divorce Act and Right to Health, the Maternity Benefit Act. See, actually, Tamil Nadu actually is one of the pioneer state, I should say. The maternity leave benefit was increased from 9 months to 12 months. See, other states, I don't think any other state is giving 12 months leave for maternity period. So this again is a real great benefit for women, right? So therefore, really like the women and the child also will get benefited. Another right against, next right is like domestic violence, like Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, which provides legal protection to women from physical, emotional, and verbal abuse by their spouse or relative. So this I consider like very, very sensitive and very, very important in gender mainstreaming. Okay, so see where other problems or other issues related to women, like other issues related to gender equality may concern or may maybe because of various other factors like socio factors, economic factor, and other factors, right? But this right against this domestic violence is one of the important factor that, like, irrespective of culture, irrespective of the language spoken, or irrespective of the educational qualification of both men or women, whatever, irrespective of the, the social background of the family. This happens everywhere. Domestic violence happens everywhere. And even educated women, like they are reluctant to come out of it, right? They don't want to be felt, they don't want others to feel sorrow for them. They don't want others to feel pity on them, and they don't want to, they don't want to share their grievances. So this is what the basic thing over here. So this physical, emotional, and verbal abuse is still prevailing irrespective of any type of improvements which is happening. So therefore, I should say a lot of, mental change or kind of psychological change should happen among both the genders to eradicate this type of domestic violence. Okay. So the gender score, again, which has been reported by Global Gender Gap in 2022. So against 146 countries, the data was taken. And then India is ranked 135 in Global Gender Gap. See, actually, the previous year, in 2021, the rank India got was 140 among 156 participants or nations. So now we can say this is little improvement, right? From 40 to 135, we have just jumped 5 ranks before. So maybe this shows a little kind of improvement and a little kind of efforts due to the efforts taken by all authorities and women themselves, right? So when you just go through the, aspects of this global gender gap, economic participation and opportunity ranks, like we do have 143 rank, and health and survival, like we do get 146 rank. So this is again like very pathetic, very pathetic. Okay, see, health and survival out of 146 countries, we get 146 rank. So this means we are the least. So women are not caring about their health and their survival, though it is very, very important and significant for the family, their mental and physical health and emotional health, which is very, very important for the family and for the children and even for the society. This has not been considered very, very important, and this has been really neglected. And some sort of, measures has to be taken by the authorities or from federations like EGROW and other organizations to build in this particular aspect. Okay, so to improvise on health and survival, and also to have more equal opportunity and economic participation of women. See, in the next slide, it is all about like how work and home is being divided. See, actually, this slide shows you like how in various categories, like how the participation of women and how the participation of men is there. Okay, so therefore this shows a lot of disparities, right? Especially see, if socializing, community participation, religion, and all, both men and women like share equal percentage. Whereas in domestic work, whereas in employment again we get a least percent, whereas the share of domestic work we get 80 to 81.2%. See, always there is a talk about balancing between work and home. Okay, that is balancing between work and family. This is the topic always which has been spoken by women, and which has been brought out as issues in a lot of social forums, right? So why not it could be balancing between work and family for men? Why this is not happening? I really don't know. See, we read a lot of books, right? So women's era, this, that, and all. In Tamil magazine, I read a lot of, magazines, right, which is exclusively for women. Lot of issues will be spoken, a lot of challenges will be spoken out by different people, but everything is being read only by women, but it should be read by men, I will think always. So whatever challenges faced, or whatever problems, whatever issues, or whatever even solutions for it should be known by men than women. So what I feel here is men should be even much more educated than women regarding these lines. So only then you can bring in gender mainstreaming in India. Okay. So again, this is a comparison. The next slide shows, gives you the comparison between various nations. So again, we are the least. Okay. So we are the least. So more of, household work is still remains as women territory in India, whereas in other countries and all, males take equal participation. See, I would say that like what is there in sharing household, and what big significance it could give away in gender mainstreaming. But actually this should start from the family. It should come from the family, I would say, right? So there should be equal participation in everything. So if women can participate in the other responsibilities like earning more for the family, improving the standard of living for the family, and getting children educated, getting children married, getting a property. See, everything is possible now. See, I'm not talking about only educated women, even uneducated women in rural area are doing their part to uplift their family. Okay, so to bring a change in their family towards the society, okay, in front of the society. When this could happen, why not the other way should happen? Why not men equally participate in the other works, other responsibility of a women? Why do we mark it as women's work? So this is what is my question in this arena. Okay, so at the current rate of gender mainstreaming and the gender inequality prevailing, I should say, it would take another century, they say. Like actually, like the recent data, they say 68 years would take to, I mean, to come closer to the global pay gap. Okay, this is actually huge number of years. See, like we introduce technology, we are introduced to technology, and infrastructure development is super fast, and everything can happen so fast. But the global pay gap could take 67, another 67, 68 years to get closer. So this is really like, then what is the use of technology and what is the use of having so much of infrastructure when this cannot address this kind of a major issue? So this is again one of my questions. Next is, there is definitely gender discrimination, definitely violence against women, unequal pay, still, I mean, it is continuing as a major issue. And even in certain states, we do have female feticide, infanticide, especially in rural areas. See, I've heard or I've read about like those families who are affluent families, but they don't want to have, they especially want only males, right? So they go abroad where the testing and all is I mean, there's no laws, right? Okay, regarding checking and disclosing the gender of the feticide. So they go there and they get, if it is a female, and they get it aborted. So this is still happening. And still there is a lot of issues regarding women's safety and security. I mean, the women working night shifts, women working in BPOs, like they really face a lot of such security issues. But I can also see that a lot of, with the involvement of the organizations and the companies which is employing women, they are doing their part, the best part or better part to, come out of all this security issues against women, female employees. And still like increasing incidents of sexual harassment and assaults report, really like it is increasing each and every year. And like again, ma'am was talking about a lot of legal rights for women in India, and we do have uneven legal rights for women in India. So maybe sometimes it has been taken as a state policy, and based on the state policy, like women rights are not really equal. And I suggest like it should be really equal, okay, in all the states. Like to combat the challenge. So how to combat the challenge of gender mainstreaming? See, actually, it should be a great concern for every sector of the society, of every subsection of the society, right? It should be heard, or it should be felt as a great concern. Actually, see, I feel that the concern is very, very less. Uh, People do not understand the significance of it, so therefore they're not bothered, and women are taken for least consideration. So therefore this type of mentality should be going away. Okay, and then the government needs to continue to implement policies, especially on promotion of women health, education, economic empowerment. And government lays policies, but there are no forces, or there are no bodies which could audit the enforcement of law, which could assess the enforcement of all these law. Okay, if there is some kind of authority which could really check with the enforcement and check with the impact of all these laws, and outcome of these laws, that would be of great help. So definitely that would improve the gender mainstreaming. And then there should be a greater focus on gender sensitization. Okay, and mandatory education at all levels of society is necessary to bring out or to reduce this kind of inequality. And here, the media plays a very vital role in spreading positive messages about women, right? So this always, I should say that the media is a very powerful, a tool. So with media, you can really like communicate all the positive messages about women. But here, what we do is with media, like we're not using it in a proper manner, and whichever is unwanted only is being promoted a lot, I should say, through media. So this should be reduced. And then we should come back to all type of gender stereotypes. This is what my I mean suggestion for to combat the challenge against gender mainstreaming. And I would leave the forum to take any other decision or suggestion which you could say, and which could really be which could be enforced in the near coming future. Thank you so much, Charan sir, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you so much, Suni,
Thank you, Dr. Catherine.
ma'am. Yes, and Ishita ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Dr. Catherine, for highlighting
Yes, ma'am.
us about the unexplored aspects of gender equality, and telling us that how even if there are rules and regulations written in our constitution by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, but still, as for the ranking in the different aspects of mainstreaming is concerned, we are lagging behind. For this purpose, I think these types of rules and regulations have turned out to be just ornamental. What we need is, the need of the hour is that we should change our mindset as far as the society is concerned. And to me, it seems so that the females in the households themselves should need to change their mindset. Because if in a family there is a son or a daughter-in-law itself, then a mother in that family would say, why my son will work? Why should not my daughter-in-law go to the kitchen? And why my son will cooperate? Even if she is also working, she has come from her office or some her workplace. So I think these types of aspects or mindsets need to be changed in order to make all those policies, rules, and regulations effective one. Anyhow, I would request the audience or the participants to reserve their questions if there are any, so that we can undertake discussion after the presentation by my second speaker is over. Is that right, Professor Charan?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
please, may I speak something about this presentation?
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah, madam, this is a very, difficult to access all these information, whatever is given on the basis of the world ranking and all. Because nowadays the total, even in rural areas also the situation is totally changed. Whatever she is presenting, that is related to long back, I think 50 years or 20 years back. But now most of the women, they are well qualified in rural areas. Even they have very good, they are coming in the political, for politics. They are well educated. They are most of the academic institutions. Women are the teachers. So situation and whatever she has given in the consequences, that is very normal. Legal issues, legal rights, fundamental rights, everything is, that the equal for men as well as for women. So now situation is totally changed, and I think there is a need for the empirical research should be conducted in the particular area. Then only we can decide on the basis of international data, on the basis of long back data. We cannot say that.
So one second. See, actually, like certain things which I had shared here is based on my own personal experience when I was doing my research, both one major research
No,
project out
madam,
of.
but in your presentations, all these data you have taken from the international agencies. They have conducted this research long back. But if you come to my village, I find a lot of changes. Even women are prosperous than men nowadays, because they have equal. Everyone is having equal rights. Women are more qualified than men. So now this situation is totally changed. Please don't present the such kind of data based on the assumptions. There is a need, if you want to present any kind of data or on gender, that the equality or some kind of whatsoever related to gender issues, you must have to conduct the research based on the primary data. Then you have to reflect the originality, what is at present.
Sir, may I request you that you are perfectly right while saying that we should base our findings on the empirical analysis.
These are the very common, legal issues and women are exploited. All these are the very common. Nothing is special. These are the even without conducting research, you can say like that. These are
If
very
you
common.
go
Not
through
only in
the
India, even in most of the developing or poor countries, the situation is like that only. But now it is totally changed.
Dr. SN
Because
Singh,
India
please.
is not very poor country now.
Yes,
It is a
that's
transition
right.
phase.
You are,
There is a lot of changes, madam.
yeah,
Whatever
there,
you are saying, the same is applying in Africa
I
also.
I do understand that there are lots of changes, but still, if you go through the different empirical studies, find more or less the findings corroborate with these findings undertaken by the international studies agencies. Though there are improvements in the urban areas, in the educated strata, but still, in some segments of the society, these types of problems do exist.
Madam, please, in rural, in India, rural area also becomes suburban area. They are having mobile. They are accessing all the information. They are financially very sound. Even in the rural area, you will find women are more sound financially than men.
That's true.
And
This
there is no any kind of discrimination even in rural areas. There is no any. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. There is no kind of discrimination for the remuneration. Women are equally paid. All
you
these are
are
the old story, please. All these are the
Sir,
old story, and I
sir,
think
excuse
such
me.
kind of
So this is not an old
not
story.
required
I'm telling you that
information
I
like that.
have seen these life situations. I have gone through certain researches earlier, like just few months before, and based on that only, I have shared my experience. So maybe the data shared regarding certain slides could be, the previous, from different organizations, that could be different. But anyhow,
Professor,
the other information which I shared here is really out of my own experience. You say that women are really empowered and financially they are secure,
Professor,
especially including rural areas. Of course,
no, no.
they may be,
Essence,
but
My
actually
suggestion is
decision
totally
making,
only
not
this.
women, female in rural areas have the right of decision making. Still, only a male person, a male stand
There
a
is no
chance here.
rural
So
nowadays.
even
There is
the
no rural
developed, one
area.
of the developed
Here,
states in India,
most of
Tamil
the
Nadu,
rural
even
area
in
connected with
Tamil
the
Nadu, the
Wi-Fi,
same
connected
status
with the
prevails.
internet. They are accessing all the information. So there is no rural area in India nowadays. Most of the rural area become the suburban area because they have each and
Mr.
every.
Yeah,
Sir,
Mr. SN Singh, Mr. SN
let,
Singh,
let us
I would
let
like
us
to,
have the
yeah, I
discussion
would
after.
like to, yeah, we'll do the discussion offline. See, the professors who are making their presentation are very, very professional, and they have done lots of research before they have been invited to make a presentation. They are not anybody on the street whom we have invited. So I would request Mr. SN Singh to please reserve his comments. He has a right to his personal opinion, but he should just air it once, and that is it, and not persist or insist with that. Professor Kuldip, I would request you to please continue with your session. And Mr. SN Singh, I'm requesting you to please, you have made your point. We have heard you. Thank you very much. But please let the seminar proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor SN Singh. Please, we will take care of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let us start with, as already I have told you, that we will come forward with the discussion after our second speaker finishes her presentation, please. It's for all the audience, please. My second speaker of the day is Dr. Ishita Bharadwaj, who is Senior Faculty, Department of Psychology, North Campus, University of Delhi. Research-wise, she is working in socio clinical facets of embodied self and sexualities in gender discourses, and is also executing a research project titled Emotion and Cognition, and is holding the charge of counseling center of the department. Many research students are working under her guidance. I'm sure today she will be sharing with us many unexplored aspects related to the gender mainstreaming. So it's over to Dr. Ishita Bharadwaj, please. Thank you.
Ma'am, Kuldip ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah, please. You are very much audible, please.
Humble regards and thanks to Professor Charan Singh and EGROW Foundation for placing this forum and inviting some of us to voice our ideas and voice our if not an expertise, at least a slice and glimpse of how things are unfolding in the research area and from an academic lens. So this interaction, which was happening since the start of the session, it brought out few pointers, which I think, because after listening to Dr. Catherine's a well-bound informative presentation, and which was beautifully staged by Dr. Kuldip in terms of how gender disparity and gender concerns is one of the important highlights, one of the important achieving goals by what has been placed by the government till 2035. And then I would also be little inclusive to what Dr. Essen Singh was raising, as that there is no rural and everything has become suburban, and this is not the data which is there, and what, the kind of disagreement. I would just bring a psychological connect between the two, because when we talk about women, we take it as a singular category. And it is all the more important now, if we really wish to work on gender empowerment, that we deconstruct this singular category of women. So who is a woman? That's important, because her race, her class, her caste, her nationality, her income, her status, her emotionality, her vulnerability, her desire, her sexuality, all of it makes her a unique position, gives her a unique position. And therefore, we cannot have a carpet-like understanding for every woman. So we need to have more and more culling out of patterns, more and more culling out of research to figure out what is the larger trajectory which Indian sentiments and Indian women are manifesting. And that is where I would just highlight few contrasts. So much of the data has been shared by ma'am in terms of what gender disparity and gender dissociations are. But when we are talking about mainstreaming gender, unknowingly we are only considering women, whereas gender is beyond binaries now. Gender is not just about men and women. We are having all more categories. So are we also being inclusive about it? In terms of understanding, the main purpose of mainstreaming is essentially offering a pluralistic approach that values the diversity among people of different gender. That's important. Now, this forum, if we deconstruct mainstreaming, which started in 1995 at Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, that was the first time when in the Fourth World Conference of Women and of Commitments, this was the main theme that was being talked about. And it was also important that how do we be more inclusive of women? How do we bring more power to them? Now, as a psychology person, I think there has been less development with the notion of empowerment and more damage with it. So like when students say, ma'am, this is the time of gender empowerment, I wonder, like Professor Charan Singh mentioned, that with G20, it seems that India has arrived now. Is it also with women empowerment? We are trying to situate women have arrived now. Perhaps not. We have always been very centric to human societies. We have always been very centric to any civilization. And it's just that with postmodern narratives, with postmodern development, the kind of archetype and the kind of jacket that has been given to us to fit in is not so suitable to what we are. So that is somewhere I think a lot needs to be deconstructed. Just taking the example of the difference between glass ceiling and glass floor. So there are more women who are participating as corporate authorities at the higher level, but there are less women participation in terms of grassroots labor force. If we go by what the labor organization, Indian labor organization's report says, the lowest women participation in labor force coming from Bihar and the highest coming from Himachal. So Bihar has 9 point something and Himachal has perhaps somewhere around 45, but the total they say is just 28%. We all have maids at home. However, there seems to be a big gap in terms of women being active members of labor forces. So this kind of contradiction in education has become a right for all. Women education has been here for last 40 years, 45 years. When higher education is more appealed and accessed by women, how come our participation in workforce is so low? So zahir si baat hai, something is not syncing well with these contrasts. Another important part which needs to be highlighted, like Nivedita Menon in her article of EPW 2016, she critiques that 33% of representation of women in parliament is highlighting the pitfall that it may lead to 33% displacement of lower caste men to accommodate upper caste women. Why? Because their mainstreaming of gender has also taken the uprise of Brahmin women, and it also needs to look at migrant lower caste and lower caste men. Please remember, when we are talking about mainstream gendering, and I think Dr. Catherine rightly states it, that psychoeducating women is not important so much as psychoeducating to all. तो जब हम women empowerment की बात कर रहे हैं, हम किससे कर रहे हैं? To women. जब हम women education की बात कर रहे हैं, also to women. Socialization की बात कर रहे हैं, also to women. So it's high time that we start demystifying this construct of women. You also presented the UNDP data where reproductive health is one major concern. So I wish to point out one part here, that though this kind of mainstreaming has actually helped women in terms of bringing them more authority, more agency to their body when they are going for IVS, when they are going for surrogacy, etc. But it has also led to a different kind of choicelessness. In spite of my education, in spite of my skills, in spite of what I am, unless I prescribe to this given norm, to this given script, I will not be accepted as a legitimate, eligible member of my community, of my group. And this threat is very deep-seated. So more than anything, what we need is restructuring of psyche. And this is very essential part when we are talking about mainstreaming gendering. For another example, we give that in the name of gender mainstreaming, there was an initiative started by NCRT to include transgender and homosexual experiences in sex education, which underwent a huge backlash. And that has only served to increase gender inequality of an already invisible group of our population. We are coming up with a big number in terms of third gender, transgender. And we still don't know how to go about with it. We still don't know what kind of policies and what kind of psychoeducation do we need to make them inclusive of our society. So this is another important part. There are a number of CEOs of women who are at the highest in the recent years, but the glass ceiling is mostly broken. And women are CEOs in companies that are dealing with banks, suitcases to a website like OnlyFans. And interestingly, these images are used as tokenism to give us an impression that women are everywhere. But that's not true. That's really not true, because these are just few images from a mass community, from a mass population where there are very few representation. So let me help you to understand that women's construction of health is something that calls for a deep, deep psychological understanding and a very robust social intervention. Why? Because health for us is like a meta archetype. A healthy woman is almost like a utopian idea. And for each one of us, the narrative of illness is so close to our heart. We fail to understand that this narrative of illness actually is making less of us. We somewhere feel the guilt of being healthy. And if this is the deep-seated psychic processes, reproductive health is just a byproduct of it. So many girls, they step out or they decline from attending classes because of their menstrual health. In urban setting, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm talking about Delhi setup. Delhi has a high rise of girls suffering with reproductive issues, especially PCODs, PCOS, etc. And that is making them not only feel inferior to who they are, that is also adding to their complexity of discovering who they are. So it is like a double bind situation for girls. And on top of that, another example I give you of a student just finished her master's. I asked her, what are your plans? She said, ma'am, whatever I have, I just have 2 years of time. Now, she comes from a upper middle class family, well educated. She says, ma'am, I just have 2 years more to spend. Why only 2 years? Ma'am, because I need to marry. Why you need to marry? Because my biological clock is ticking. Now, these ideas are so essentialized in our system. Neither we test them, nor we examine them, but we live the fear and guilt and threat of it, and we pass it on without intelligently deconstructing it. And that is where the damage comes. And listening to her, I felt women like Gargi and Maitri was so empowered as compared to this 21st century girl standing in front of me after having attended lectures regularly for 2 years and saying that my biological clock is ticking and I should get married. It is not a choice that she's having. It is almost a choicelessness with which she thinks that I'm being more agentic. This is again where I quote Alan Watts' double bind situation. The other part, and this borrowing from Dr. Catherine's presentation of gender sensitive language. And what Dr. Kuldip highlighted, that we need to be more equal in our household setting, especially when a woman comes back from work, female in the household. And rightly she said that why there are more atrocities happening in families where women are leading, or there are more representation of women. Ma'am, because there is a concept of affective solidarity. For generations, we have been trained to be territorial. Why? Because we have invested less in discovering within, and we have invested more in discovering outside. So this invisibility with which we perennially suffer, either we strive to be visible if we have those resources, if we have those access to outlets. Otherwise, we push others to this kind of invisibility, that is affective solidarity. So only when I make you invisible, I feel my visibility. And this is a very strange psychic connect. Personally, in my own experience as a counselor, as a therapist, I found in women, it is collective unconscious. It's not that they are aware of it, but unless I see the other woman suffering, unless her narrative is laced with the idea of suffering, to my sense, she's less of a woman. So it is all the more difficult for a woman who is inside the four walls to appreciate that woman who is also going outside the four walls, who is also going. Now, here comes the other thought which Dr. Catherine rightly states, a work-life balance. And I think Dr. Charan Singh and Kuldip ma'am will agree. The researches on work-life balance, which is a very beautiful psychological concept, has been undertaken with women as participants, because it's only women who are considered to be responsible for life. And when they are working, they need to balance it. Very interestingly, men have always been in the workforce, taking the argument ahead. But why for men, work-life balance has not been spoken of? Now, this is from a researcher's point of view, I would say, this is researcher's blind spot. हम लोगों ने बिना इसको समझे रिसर्च कर करके एक साइकिक डेवलपमेंट कर दिया, एक साइकिक बिल्डिंग कर दिया कि जब औरत को बाहर काम करना पड़ेगा, she needs to balance. I wonder whether we think that when we see maids coming to our homes and working, do we think about work-life balance for them? No. Why? Because they are serious and crucial contributors to their family income. And somehow for the affluent and for the upper middle class, I would say, women's work has not been taking, because of women themselves, that I am an additional contributor, but the main earning member of my family is the man. When I teach gender and I do this kind of experiential exercises with my students, I keep asking them, what kind of partner would you like to have? And I give them different kinds of scripts, different kinds of images. Trust me, very few go for those partners who might be working for higher education. Why? Because higher education will prolong the time period of their economic independency. And girls want economic independency. So this, I'm talking about those girls who have access to knowledge, who have access to education, who are witnessing higher education. However, the regressive gender psyche prevails. Objectification prevails. Ma'am rightly mentioned that it's important media should play an important role. Of course, media is playing an important role, but unfortunately, media has reduced the position of women as a source of entertainment, whether in the name of murder, whether in the name of intimacy, whether in the name of sexuality. We have become a core part for pleasure. And this is something which is not just in media, it is also in the market. So the most sellable image in the market is that of a woman. Whether you sell a cup of tea, or you sell a brand, or you sell a shoe. This is where, again, we need to understand that in the name of gender empowerment, have we built more gender vulnerability? Have we been able to allow women in discovering their selves, in voicing, in knowing their authentic selves? Or we have only camouflaged it and created a herd community, HERD, herd community, which again can be masculine. An interesting image which all of us see but rarely think about is the power dress with wedding churas in their hands. So it's almost like coping with two different worlds, one calling for surrender, another calling for assertion. And this kind of contradiction is somewhere I feel is backlashing gender empowerment. We need not be masculine to assert our presence. We need not be like others to assert our presence. I think it's high time that in education, through education and by education, we help to bring the concept of gender equity and inclusivity instead of gender empowerment. Why? Because there is another vulnerable community, there is another vulnerable group, which is the group of men. And each time when we are talking and romanticizing and glamorizing the image of women, we are actually penetrating, we are bringing more violence in the mind, in the psyche of the other group. So is it really helping us to bridge the gap, or it is widening the gap, is the thought I would like to put forth to my audience. If the time permits, I would like to continue or stop here. Sir?
I think you can continue for another 4 minutes because I want that there should be some healthy discussion. Already it's 7:19.
That is why, ma'am.
For
That is
couple
why
of
I was
minutes
saying
you can continue. For a couple of
I
minutes,
can continue.
otherwise we have to open the floor for discussion, please.
Okay. Now, ma'am, the danger of gender mainstreaming is that it largely comprises something which we say as small gains, and it leads to what very interestingly sociology professor Gail Dines, calls as trickle down feminism, which is like working to increase the rank of women in elite jobs without a strategy for wider economic and social change that represents what kind of trickle down feminism we are talking about. Another interesting data I wish to share with you, if you all check through, the highest number of suicides are of male farmers in India. And the second highest number of suicides are of housewives and homemakers. Now, this we often talk about when we examine or inquire the phenomena of suicide as a phenomena. We are concerned about the marginal groups. We talk about farmers, whether it is in Maharashtra or in South. We talk about the labor force. During COVID, we were actually thinking about the migrant workers and the kind of loss they underwent. But the second highest rank is of housewives and homemakers. Now, this word itself is an invisible workforce which exists but is considered to play least role, but highly moralized and dehumanized in terms of its self-efforts. Now, these are complex layers which needs to be re-examined, which needs to be repositioned. And unfortunately, this data we never talk about. How do we bring a sense of self-worth? How do we bring a sense of self-agency? How do we help them to be better facilitators in the development in and around our systems, of our systems? So this is one important dimension I thought of sharing. The other important part is that the mainstreaming of gender issues in healthcare, like the manifestation of heart attack in women is very different from that of a man. But in most books, what we read is only about male bodies. And we need to systematically study manifestations of various disorders in different people to develop better diagnosis and prognosis. Like in health sector, there is a very steep discrepancy. There are few areas which are considered extremely feminine and gender, gynecologists, for example, but when it comes to heart specialists, we find more men. I can give you the example of women being in lead when it comes to school teaching. But when it comes to senior professors at university level, men are still there. Nurses, women are more in numbers, but doctors, men are more in numbers. Now, this kind of discrepancy shows that, and in fact, there was this book 4 5 years back taken out by a psychologist on 50 eminent psychologists of India. There was not a single name of a female psychologist in a time when psychology is considered to be a female subject, feminine subject, and there are so many takers, girls and women takers to this discipline, but not a single name of a woman being mentioned. So, how should we understand this kind of dichotomy? Is it an intentional invisibility being masked on the other gender? Or is it a psychic denial or something else? This is a thought I wish to make the uh, audience understand. And especially when we are talking about gender mainstreaming in terms of media. Media has been a very crucial part because media has been trying to portray, like the film of Four Shots or Darling, they are holding the essence of gender empowerment, which is not completely true. That is not a due representation of any kind of social movement. However, it is this generation enamored by this kind of audacity, this kind of expression, and then we consider that to be an expression of gender empowerment. So, couple of these thoughts we need to rethink. And if we are asked from here, where, what do we do? So, the first suggestion which I hold is an intensive educational restructuring where we least speak of gender empowerment and we uphold the idea of inclusivity, where we shed light on different diversity. For example, it's high time we understand that women are not singular categories. When we talk about women, the tribal woman is very different from me, and therefore her backdrop and her understanding and her position needs to be as well understood as my position. When we talk about health, we also need to understand the psychic combination, the psychological combination, wherein psychosomatic concerns, wherein reproductive concerns, wherein gynae concerns, and the larger narrative of romanticizing pain with women has to be reworked. It cannot be taken in the same spirit. All the more when we are having girls for higher education, it's high time we, as teachers, as facilitators, we help them discover that their participation is coming at a huge cost. And we simply cannot be taking only token images. We need to bring more diversity in job employment, and we need to filter down in terms of grassroots development. That's the point I would want to hold on. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ishita. We value your wonderful observations from the psychological angle of the gender mainstreaming. And you are rightly said that the inclusiveness basically should come first than saying that the gender empowerment should come first. We value it. Thank you so much. Both the presenters or both the presentations were wonderfully good. And now around, though we are running short of time, only 4 minutes as per scheduled time given to us are left. But still, the floor is open for discussion. Anybody who has one or two crisp observations can type it in the message box, and we will be taking it one by one for the speakers to respond if they so wish to, please. Any observation, please? Any query?
Yeah, good evening. I just have a query. I just want to ask that Dr. Katrina is mentioning about uneven rights to the women, legal rights to the women. I would like to know much about that because as per my understanding, our constitution is not that creating any sort of difference among male and female.
So once
As,
again, I couldn't hear you clearly.
the question is to Dr. Kathleen. You
Yes.
were mentioning about that uneven.
Raj, can you type in the
Yeah.
message box your message so that I can read it for Dr. Catherine, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I couldn't hear him.
Yeah. Please, Dr. Raj, are you there?
Yeah, may I speak right?
Ji sir. Ji sir.
May I speak right now? Because the
आपकी
doctor
आवाज कट कट के आ रही है सर.
presented very clearly. Yeah, because Dr. Ishita what are the solutions for this? I think we must have to focus on the solutions rather than
You are not audible.
As
You are not audible. We can't hear you.
All because these are the problems. What problems address just a genuine problem, but what are the solutions?
Kuldip ma'am, what is sir's question?
He says, what are the solution for all
Right.
these problems which you have listed?
Ji sir, this
काय नाही हो ती तेच बोलत होती आई तुम्ही जाणार आहे का गावाला
कोण
आई हो
आई कशाला आई तू
hello. Ji,
गावाला
बर हा
I think
मग
someone's mic is on.
Yeah, Mr. Sunil Gadji, can you please switch off your mic because we can hear your personal conversation. Yeah, now I think she has done it.
Dr. Catherine, will she want to address the query first? What was raised to her? After which I take
Yeah.
on.
Let Ishita ma'am answer the question because again, ask me the question after Ishita ma'am's response, ma'am.
ठीक सर, जितनी भी विडंबनाओं की बात हमने की, जिस तरह की कॉन्ट्रडिक्शंस की बात की, ये मानसिक स्तर पे है. तो अगर मैं एक सुझाव के स्तर पे कहूँ, इट इज ऑल द मोर इम्पोर्टेंट, क्योंकि अब IKS को लेके सरकार बहुत संभावना दिखा रही है, इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम, और मुझे लगता है स्त्री विमर्श को लेकर इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम में पर्याप्त कंटेंट है, जहां पे हम अलग अलग और भिन्न प्रांतों से इस तरह के नैरेटिव्स ले सकते हैं. सो इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट दैट वी ब्रिंग दीज नैरेटिव्स एज पार्ट ऑफ आवर टीचिंग लर्निंग डिस्कोर्स. इंटरेस्टिंग है सर कि जब भी हम स्त्री विमर्श की बात करते हैं, हमारे पास जो पुस्तक होती है और जो समझ होती है, वो ऐसा लगता है कि बाहर की खिड़की से आई है, जबकि ऐसा नहीं है. तो जब तक हम इस पूरे मॉडल को हायर एजुकेशन के लेवल पे, क्योंकि यही व्यक्ति जिनको हम पढ़ा रहे हैं, यही बच्चे फिर बाहर जाकर हमारे वर्कफोर्स का पार्ट बनते हैं, चाहे वो हेल्थ केयर का पार्ट बने, चाहे स्कूल टीचर का पार्ट बने, चाहे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का पार्ट बने. इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट दैट वी ब्रिंग an element of understanding cultural realities. पहला. दूसरा, जब हम टेक्स्ट बुक्स बना रहे हैं, हम उस टेक्स्ट बुक में किस तरह की इमेजरी दे रहे हैं एक बच्चे को कल्पनाओं के स्तर के, उसके लिए समाज, परिवार, मूल्यता, नैतिकता, वैल्यूज, किसके ऊपर टिका के वो देख रहा. So women are considered to be primary forces of social agencies, but at what cost? So I think instead of saying that no, we are not primary forces, I think it's high time we also include men are equally important forces of social agencies. The moment we bring this kind of balance, तो जो छोटा सा एक चित्र होता है कि पिता दफ्तर से आता है और माँ चाय बना रही है, इसी चित्र को अगर बदल दीजिए कि माँ दफ्तर से आ रही है और पिता चाय बना रहा है, एक छोटा बच्चा जब इसको देखना शुरू करेगा, धीरे धीरे उसके जहन में ये बात शायद 10 साल 15 साल बाद ये रेजोनेट करेगी कि चाय बनाना सिर्फ स्त्री का अधिकार नहीं है. हमारे डीएनए में चाय बनाना, ये तो सर कंडीशनिंग का पार्ट है, सालों से करते आ रहे हैं. मेमोरी लॉस होगी तो भी कर लेंगे, लेकिन इसको करने के लिए ही मेरा जन्म हुआ. ये सिद्धांत को बदलने के लिए जरूरी है कि हम विजुअल, टेक्सचुअल और इंटेलेक्चुअल लेवल पे डिकंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ नैरेटिव्स को करें. एग्जिस्टिंग नैरेटिव्स को थोड़ा सा अलग तरीके से देखने की जरूरत है. ठीक है सर.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. I hope you are satisfied with the query, and she has very wonderfully explained it, that what is the need of the hour. Just because visual has more impact as compared to that. Once we have to set the examples for the coming generations, then probably slowly and slowly we will be moving out of this type of discrimination. Any other query, please?
Excuse me.
I have typed the query on the chat box.
Sorry, whom you want to?
That is
Your question
Dr.
for next week,
No,
please.
Dr. Catherine. I think
Dr. Catherine.
earlier it was
Yeah,
mentioned
please.
about uneven legal rights. So I just wanted to know exactly what are those, how you can, if you can quote some
Actually,
examples.
yeah. So there is actually in the constitution there is no difference between states which could implement the legal rights, but the enforcement part differs statewide. Okay, and not only that, certain states give priority for education or health, certain extra benefits or subsidies for women, while certain states do not do so. So this is what I was trying to say, a kind of discrimination. Okay, it's not definitely constitution is equal to all the human beings living in India.
And I would definitely like to know about the view about current generation. Are you still finding the same sort of discrimination with the current generation also? Because I can see most of my friends, schoolmates, college mates, I hardly see any discrimination like as you mentioned, quoted examples of making tea, coffee, whatever it is. In fact, we are the person who come with that tea. So, are you hopeful or you're totally not hopeful about the new generation for this discrimination? I would like to know views from both of you, Dr. Catherine and Ishita ma'am.
Yes, please. Who would like to respond first, please? Dr.
I
Catherine?
would say I would share my part, ma'am. So as of current generation, so even like I'm in teaching for around more than 2 decades. I could see a lot of difference in the current generation perspective towards education and women empowerment. Of course, parents nowadays like they really work hard and send the girl child get educated. Uh, but everything is good. But the only thing I want to again here is the basic mentality. Even ma'am had explained that the basic mentality that women are fit for certain type of job, and women need to be get married at a particular point of age, whether she likes or not, because of social pressure, because parents create their own pressure, right? So all these issues, I think, it has not been significantly or drastically decreased by so many decades. So it's still prevailing, I think. Okay, so
Okay.
this is what like I was trying to say. The mentality has to be changed. So more of such gender mainstreaming, gender equality and education towards gender equality, such things to be given more to men than women.
Thank you, Dr. Catherine. Please, our last question of the day is to our next speaker, Dr. Ishita, by Kripa Shankar, who says that how to reduce housemakers in India. This is the last question, then we have to wind it up the session, please.
How do we reduce housemakers' condition in India?
Yes.
The very language of housemaker associated with women itself, I think, is problematic because house belongs to both the partners. Both the partners are equally responsible. Now, can we change the mentality of a young adult to think differently? We can try and we should try, but what we can change is with young minds. And it's important that we bring more inclusive images through our stories, through our understanding, through our social interactions, through our language, that home is not just the prerogative and responsibility of one gender. The more we thrive on this, the more we encash this idea, the greater problem and division we are going to bring. We've already brought in our society. So in spite of higher education, more access to resources, our psychic understanding have just not changed. Why? Because in our minds, we carry the guilt, I am responsible for my home. So वो जितना मेरा घर है उतना तुम्हारा भी है. ये समझ हमें लगता है बहुत ही कम उम्र के समय से हमारे एजुकेशन का पार्ट होना चाहिए. तो मैटरनिटी लीव जैसे पुरुष को भी जरूरी है. रीजन बीइंग कि औरत को तो आपने छुट्टी दे दी क्योंकि वो फिजिकली एक स्टेज पर है, पर उसकी केयर के लिए भी किसी और को छुट्टी देने की जरूरत है. तो जब तक हम एज वुमेन इस तरह के स्पेशल प्रिविलेजेस को खाली देखते रहेंगे, हम अपने स्टेटस को से निकल नहीं पाएंगे. इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वी गिव अप these special privileges and we should be considered as equal part and contributors to existing structures.
That's right, ma'am. I think now paternity leave has also started.
Yes, ma'am. It
Right.
has.
So it's
It is
wonderful.
important.
Rather than ma'am Catherine was saying, then I was also of this opinion that why only to women? Why the males should also not? If 1 year is meant leave for is meant for women, then why the males or the fathers should also avail this leave and accordingly should share the responsibilities regarding this.
Very, very true, ma'am. Very, very true. It's important.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, on behalf of EGROW Foundation, I would like to thank both the speakers. Both the speakers for the presentations were equally good. I would take on record the the audience as well as the fellow participants who have initiated this wonderful discussion. So on behalf of myself, on behalf of EGROW Foundation, I am really thankful to all of you for making this session a wonderful session. Now, I will like to hand over the mic to the organizers, that is Professor Charan Singh, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kuldip, Professor Catherine, Professor Ishita. Three of you have made a very, very important and wonderful presentations today. Professor Ishita, she is a psychologist in their university, and she has brought in a version which I, as an economist, hardly ever thought as to what is a woman. And is she one, or has she to be seen from different dimensions and angles? And I think that's very, very important, which she has brought in. Dr. Catherine, and the presentation that you made, very rich presentation. And I totally agree. And one of that which struck me the most as an economist was the work that men put in at home. It's so much. And I was trying to compare our countries like America more equal, where I've lived for many years, is Australia more equal. But one thing is apparent, India is way behind. And the inequality that happens in India in terms of workforce is so stark. Your consequences, your conclusions, I think are very, very useful. I want to thank you for that. And Professor Kuldip, I can't thank you enough. At the last minute, you agreed. I know you have come all the way from Rajouri to Amritsar today just to chair this session, and that shows your commitment to a friend as well as to a cause. So I really can't thank you enough, and happy that you shared your research with us. So this has been a really very meaningful 90 minutes that we have spent together today. I want to thank each one of you. I also want to thank the audience participants who asked such pertinent questions at any time on any day. There could be different views. India itself is so varied, and in India there is so much of variation. But research studies as much literature as I've seen within India or abroad, I find one will not be able to escape the fact that the homemaker burden continues to be with the women. However hard you try, however hard you have modern gadgets at home, that's a matter of fact. So more empirical research worldwide would be required to prove the point how the gap is narrowing, but the gap unfortunately is there and continues to be there, and women are on the receiving end on this. So as a father, as a grandfather, I've seen all this happening in front of my eyes. And my personal front as a researcher and a scholar, the studies show it. And when I look around and participate in seminars such as this, I realize much more work has to be done. Maybe as psychologists, maybe our textbooks have to change. Maybe our kindergarten books have to change. Maybe the picturization, which has a psychological impact lasting throughout your life, has to change. But probably a change is required, and earlier the better, especially in a country like India, where technically female labor force participation is very, very low. And female labor force participation negatively, low female labor force participation results in low GDP. And this is, to me, a low-lying fruit. If we are able to increase female labor force participation, we'll be able to escalate our economic growth. So it's so important, and today's webinar is contributing significantly in that thought. So I want to thank each one of you. I'm going to request to you that please send it to your friends in policymaking circles, in your states, wherever you are. I'm going to put it on Twitter by tomorrow when the recording is available, and I'm going to mark it to important policymakers in India, and I'm hoping that they will listen to three of you. I would also like to make another important, very important announcement, and that is next week we continue with this journey, and we have again three professors, and the topic is going to be empowering women through education. And I can give you a preview, a bird's view. The professors were telling me that as a young child, after education, as Professor Kuldip mentioned, enters the workforce, she has only 2 more years, and then she gets married, and then she has children. In those 2 years, she may join the best job in the world, but once she has children, does she change her job and become a professor and take education as a support and then live rest of her life in the education department? Those are the issues that will come up through empirical research next week. So I would invite you to participate in that too and share your thoughts. So once again, I have to mention that EGROW Foundation, in its attempt to encourage economic literacy, is offering evening courses online 1 hour every day on basic concepts of what is national income, what is monetary, what is fiscal, what's financial sector, What is external sector and exchange rate? What are financial markets? What are the important contemporary issues in our country? 1 hour every day, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Aim is that in the nook and farthest nook and corner of the country, people are able to listen to the economists trained in India and abroad, having worked in important places in our country to share their thoughts. The faculty of these are retired people from IIM, RBI, SEBI, uh, and some teaching at JNU, Delhi University, Gokhale Institute. So all type of people who are around my age or older and want to give back to the society and share their wisdom with the society are the teaching faculty. So I would request you to please avail those benefits, and the farthest nook and corner of the country, wherever online attendance is possible, I would like you to spread that word. It's all information is on our website. With that, let me once again thank three of you, and let me once again thank the participants. Wishing you a great weekend and looking forward to have you join us next week on empowering women through education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am.
Good
Thank you.
evening. Thank you.